All team, give it everything you got.
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in.
Never get between a Mandalorian and a weapons package.
This is the way.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
She's as important as he is.
With your hosts, Trisha Barr and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Welcome, Yub Cubs, to Fangirls Going Rogue. I'm Trisha Barr of Fangirl Blog, one of your hosts, and with me, as always, is Sarah Woloski from Skywalking Through Neverland.
Hey, Trisha! I am so happy to be sitting down with you and talking about Maul.
Maul, didn't he die in the first episode?
Yeah, then he came back. And then I thought he died again, and then he came back again. It's very confusing. But before we go there, Trisha, how has your week been?
I think we've been busy, both of us. I've been erecting signals. That's what I do for a living, is traffic signals and roadways. And we've been putting up signals. And the scary part is they're in my hometown. So everybody, if they have a problem, is going to know who to talk to. So
I was going to ask, do people get upset at you because it's like, damn it, now there's a signal here?
Well, there's already a signal there. We're improving the intersection. It's needed it, but there's always people like, oh, it didn't let me through, or this happened, or I don't like the way when the yellow light comes up, blah, blah, blah. And actually, I don't do any of that. I just build it, and then I hand it over people, and they do the rest.
Okay, good. Well, over this past weekend, I was at WonderCon, and this is in Anaheim, and one of my favorite authors was there, Claudia Gray.
I know, one of our favorite authors. For some reason, there's all these people talking about Lost Stars on Instagram and TikTok. I'm like, what's going on? Why am I seeing? It's like she's maybe just because she was out there speaking.
I think because she was out there, and the panel that I went to, which was fantastic, was Spotlight on Claudia Gray, and they kind of went through her backstory, even back to her fanfic days, in which she wrote X-Files fanfic, and that's kind of what paved her way to Star Wars. So nice. I've been sharing a lot of fun reels from that panel on social media on Skywalking Pod. So make sure to check those out. But I got to meet her, and I had her sign not a Star Wars novel, but one of her Jane Austen verse books, The Murder of Mr. Wickham. I was very excited about it.
Oh, fun. I love getting books signed by the authors. And then, I know people wanted to borrow one of my Thrawn books. I'm like, no, no, that one doesn't go. It's signed.
Yeah, exactly. No, these are specific to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. And then this morning, I feel kind of scattered, just like you were driving around today. I was at home, trying to get D23 tickets. It's no longer called D23 Expo, but it's the big Disney convention that's happening in August 14th through 16th. And it was a whole thing. It took 2.5 hours, but we finally, 10 of us got tickets to the expo, and some of us got tickets to the Honda Center, which is the big panels afterward, right? So I'll be explaining more about that as it comes up, but short story, Richard and I are able to go to all 3 days, all Honda Center days. So we're very excited.
Woo!
I know. Woo! I don't think it still has sunk in yet, but wow.
Yeah. And then Celebration will be coming up shortly. It's now a year away. So we're
almost exactly
be back at it again.
Yes. I'm not looking forward to another Celebration craziness, but we all got to endure it, right?
Yep. It's getting the tickets and all that stuff. It's just nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And speaking of also, the Olympics are coming in 2028 to Los Angeles, my hometown. I've never been to the Olympics. I've never traveled to it. It's coming here. So now I call it my hometown. It's not my hometown, but it's where I live. And so I'm very excited. And the ticket draw is happening basically as we speak. So hopefully I'll be able to get the draw to actually buy tickets. And I want to see something. I don't even care what I go to. I want to go to the Olympics in 2028.
Fun.
Yeah.
Go to the equestrian events for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, crazy story. When I was a kid, when was the last time the Olympics were in LA? What is that?
1884.
1884.
When you were a kid, Trisha.
150 years ago.
1984. Wow.
My grandma lived in LA, and she rented her house out to people and just moved out of the city. Well, people think, like VRBOs are like, no, people did that during the Olympics. They're like not going to be around. So
I'm going to be around. I don't care. Traffic already sucks. Who cares?
It'll just be gridlock.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
So exciting. And we're also closing in on May the 4th. So getting ready for that now that like merchandise drops. I just sent you the Fennec Shand exclusive from Cody Corner's lounge fly bag. That was exciting.
I just saw that like not an hour ago. And I like audibly gasped. Richard was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Oh, you don't want to know."
It's cute too, because it's, black and just the orange. So it could be like people wouldn't even know, like if you were just wearing it, like it just looks like black with a touch of orange. But
it's beautiful.
Definitely hers. And on an exciting note in history, yesterday Artemis 2 launched into space. We're going back to the moon. Did you get to see the launch?
So now I was driving, unfortunately, but I have my NASA app and I plan to actually watch it later. I couldn't dedicate the time yesterday. But did you get to watch the launch being in Florida?
Absolutely did. And in Florida, we have the privilege of, if it's a good day, you can see the launch from here. And we would have been able to see it at like 30 seconds on, but there were clouds. So unfortunately, I did not get to see it. But, my husband came home early, made sure we were ready to watch it. I don't know. I don't talk about it a lot, but after the Challenger accident, I worked in the Pentagon in the space program. So I worked on shuttle related stuff for 4 years in college. That was like what I would do for my summer job, and winters I would go back and work in on the stuff. It was mostly like budgetary stuff that I worked on, but it was cool because you don't realize how many people touch the space program, how many engineers and financial people and experts and scientists, and to all have that kind of legacy of getting to see them go back to space. I mean, I was a baby when we were going to the moon last time, and I'm 57.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, I feel privileged to know you, Trisha. You worked on the space program. That's so cool. Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to think that we can do that. And I love it happening like right on the heels of Project Hail Mary, which I know you saw the movie as well.
Yes, I read the book twice now. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's what great timing. Like, how awesome is that? And my Instagram feed is all Artemis 2 or Project Hail Mary like stuff.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling interviews. Yeah. I love him, and I was excited for Starfighter, but even more so excited for whatever it is that he ends up doing, because I mean, the guy definitely is like a leading man in the way that I felt like Harrison Ford is a leading man. Like, he's kind and personable, and he talks about wanting to make hopeful movies for his kids. And, those are the things like you think of when you think of that's how Star Wars succeeded. So he's just talking about Project Hail Mary itself. And I'm like, if this can translate into Starfighter, we're going to be fine.
Yeah. And I think honestly, like, he's going to have a whole new fan base that will watch Starfighter just because of him. I mean, how many of us go to movies just to see the leading man or lady? I mean,
me,
my hands up. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, wow, that's going to be exciting. Whew.
I know. I mean, and that's the test of a true movie star, right? Is that people want to go, a lot of there are a lot of actors that are good actors, but people don't necessarily go to the movie just because they're in it. So, and I think he has that kind of charm, and maybe people who might not have been interested in Starfighter might go to see it because he's in it.
Yeah. In fact, I just have to share one thing that I saw on social media from Crystal, who does CRAD TV on YouTube. So she posted, read Project Hail Mary, loved the book. I like seeing Ryan Gosling, so I loved Project Hail Mary. Like, I love looking at Ryan Gosling, so I loved Project Hail Mary. It was very cute. I was like, oh, there you go.
My favorite thing was just all the weird ways he wore his glasses, like, hanging from the ear.
I was like, how do you put your glasses on your chin? What are you doing? They're going to get all greasy. And then, of course, Rocky. I mean, that relationship. How sweet.
That's the other reason I'm curious about what he'll do in Starfighter, because there's this dynamic of how Mark Hamill interacted with the puppet Yoda and really kind of proved that he was a star. He had to sell that in The Empire Strikes Back, right? And it was a similar vibe for Project Hail Mary, and Pedro Pascal has to do that also with Grogu in The Mandalorian and Grogu. So it's interesting how you get these we have space opera for Star Wars, and then science fiction, the version of Project Hail Mary, but getting to see people make you believe something when there's not a real person on the other side, right?
And they did it. They absolutely did it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, before we get to Starfighter, I think we need to roll it back to right now. Okay, I guess we talked about some news. There's a little more news, but before we roll into that news, it's about our main topic, which happens to be Maul Shadow Lord. And this Disney Plus series premieres with 2 episodes on April 6th, and then it's 10 episodes. So it follows Maul beginning 1 year after the events of the Clone Wars Season 7, when the Empire has taken over the galaxy. And then 2 episodes will air every week, with the final 2 airing on May the 4th. How fortuitous. Woo! Yeah. So this is very exciting. And as a summary, Maul wants to rebuild his criminal syndicate on a planet that's as yet untouched by the Empire, Janix. And there he crosses paths with a disillusioned young Jedi Padawan, Devon, who could be the apprentice he is seeking that will aid him in his relentless pursuit for, say it with me, revenge. When you think Maul, you think revenge. So before we go into the series, there is some news. Trisha, share this, please.
Well, today when we drop this will be the day that you can go watch Maul Shadow Lord. But this is on April 2nd that we're recording. They just announced that there will be a season 2 of the show, which was very exciting. And that came on StarWars.com. There was an interview in Esquire that sort of suggested that in it. And then the StarWars.com, I think they just decided to go ahead and say, well, it's out there. We'll go ahead and admit it's out there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And there had been other interviews where like Athena Portillo had been a little coy about it, and people were like, oh, they may not be doing it. And I'm like, no, from what we've seen, it definitely felt like this was the beginning of the beginning of an adventure or a story, in the way that Star Wars likes to tell stories, in a little bit more of a longer form. So this isn't surprising at all. And I think the character will carry people through to a new adventure.
Yeah. So let's get into this character. Why does everyone love Maul? So I know, I'll tell you why. I feel like Teresa needs to be on this show.
Exactly.
She's our true Maul aficionado here. But my first experience with Maul was getting the Star Wars Insider back in 98, 99, whenever leading up into the Phantom Menace. And the whole front page was this very scary close-up image of his face. And it's this black and red with these yellow red rimmed eyes. And you're like, what is that? So ever since that image, I've I was dying to see him on screen, and then his movements, he's so fluid. Like it's a really cool character. I can't get behind his whole revenge thing, but what about you, Trisha?
And I think that point was made in some of the interviews that you're not supposed to get behind his revenge thing, but that he is relatable. So the Esquire article, and it's Anthony Bresnikan who did the interview for it. He actually asked that, why does everyone love Maul? And I thought it was interesting because the article says we love survivors, but is Maul fascinating because of his resilience or because of the unfairness he perpetually endures? The ancient myth of the Shadow Lord creative team repeatedly invokes as a comparison is Sisyphus, who lives forever but is doomed to push the same rock up a hill over and over and over again. Survivors are appealing, yes, but we are also transfixed by people who are their own worst enemies.
Okay.
And I like that because they aren't like trying to say he's redeemable, or that they're like he's a failed person.
He's a failed Sith.
And he's a failed Sith. I love they say he's a survivor because for a long time we didn't think he was a survivor.
Yeah.
And then George Lucas is like, I really like that character. Let's bring him back. And once you got over that kind of hump of, well, how's this gonna work out? He's been a very fascinating character. And Sam Witwer, in that Esquire interview, he said, you've got to remember this guy was an athlete training for the Olympics, and then he never got to go. Or rather, on his first Olympic trials, he botched the landing, right? And he goes on to say, he's the guy who peaked too early and is thinking, oh, I could have been and I should have been. And if he were more wise, he would be able to figure out a way through that. But unfortunately, he was not trained to have that reflectivity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even Dave Filoni addressed Maul being relatable because he makes mistakes. He's not perfect. He desires power and then he gets toppled. That's relatable. We all probably feel like that when we have a low moment. He just doesn't deal with it well. He keeps trying to attack his problems in the same way. He can't ever really let go of his hatred and his anger. And that can hold you down. And Maul is a constant reminder of that.
Obviously, I don't know if everybody realizes, so the show is created by Dave Filoni, so it's his idea, right?
Yes.
And then he expanded that story with Michnovetz, who's been a long time writer for Star Wars animation. I think there's a lot of impactful stories that we could go and say, oh, he wrote this and worked on Rebels and the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch. So he's had his hands on a lot of things. He seems to be trusted with Filoni, and they developed the show. And then we've got a lot of really amazing writers coming back, and Brad Rau from the Bad Batch, who's like the supervising director of it. And then Jennifer Corbett wrote at least 2 episodes. Christopher Yost wrote an episode. So there's a lot of writers that did really solid jobs.
Yeah. And then Athena Portillo is the producer. What did Sam Witwer call her? The gunslinger.
Yes.
Of a producer. I was like, that is a cool way to call that. Which you'll hear later in the roundtables. But yeah, it's a good team working on this show.
It is a good team. And so the interesting thing too is we know the end, right, of Maul's story.
Yes.
We do know he's not getting resurrected again.
Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah,
I doubt that. Yeah.
But this is taking us from the character from the Clone Wars and going in that era between the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels and figuring out how he gets from the person he is when he has Savage Opress and he's beaten down by the Emperor and he runs Mandalore, and then he loses in the Siege of Mandalore, which we see in the end of the Clone Wars, and then we see him come back and try to tempt Ezra. So we're between that. So he's looking for a first time run at a Padawan here in this show.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah. You're right.
As far as, because you had to kind of keep it where your headspace is. And he's, by the time we see him at the very end with Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's kind of lost it at that point. He's just, he wants to blame somebody, and now he's going to circle back around to the guy who cut him in half. And because it wasn't working out with getting the Emperor.
No, not at all. Or Ezra as a Padawan. Exactly. Well, should we talk about this person he's trying to recruit? So Gideon, so Devon Izara is a former Jedi Padawan, or I guess is she still a Jedi Padawan? They're in
she
hiding.
is. They're just in the Jedi Order, yeah.
Right. And she and her Master Eeko-Dio Daki are also on this planet Janix, and she's studying with him. And she's played by Gideon Adlon. Now, I have a fun fact here. So Richard used to work at a My Gym in Hollywood, and he was like playing games with this little 1-2-year-old named Gideon, and it was a girl, and this was Gideon Adlon, who is now the voice of Devon Izara. So if she remembers, she used to play with Richard some Mommy and Me games or something.
It's so funny. What a small world, right?
It is a very small world.
Yeah, they did a kind of cast interview thing on StarWars.com as well, and Gideon said, Devon Izara is a Jedi in a post-Order 66 world, and she is filled with angst. Yes. She's a teenage girl living in a world where she's trying to decipher right from wrong.
You know what? I'm glad she said that, because I was wondering how old she was. So she's teenager. Okay. Because she is a Twi'lek, so it's hard to tell.
And she's so probably a little older than when we met Ahsoka.
Yes.
Because I think she was just maybe 13 at the time. Ahsoka was more of a kid. Mm-hmm. And I would say that Devon definitely feels like she's working towards young adulthood.
Like, let's say, I would say 17.
Yeah, like an older high school kid, almost to college type of, that's the kind of vibe I get.
Me too.
But maybe it would be even more fun than to listen to Sam Witwer and Gideon Adlon talk about the show itself. So we got to be in a roundtable discussion, which I always like because everybody has a different question and a different perspective, and you get all sorts of things that you would never have thought to ask, mm-hmm. and really new discussions. So why don't we go ahead and let Sam and Gideon talk about the show and their characters.
And FYI, these are spoiler free, so feel free to listen before you've watched the episodes.
My first question is for Sam. I wanted to ask you about your producing role in this and how creative you got to be, or how involved you were in this whole process.
They were kind enough to offer me a seat at the table. Really what it came down to was they wanted to ensure that the character was authentic to how we've portrayed him over the past 15 or 16 years. And so I feel like my role is to hear what they want to do and say, okay, well, I think Maul would feel this way about it, or he would go about it in this particular way. But really what it is it feels like just a bunch of friends hanging out, spinning a Star Wars yarn. I mean, it's really a collaborative group, and everyone has such great ideas and so much energy. Brad Rau has tremendous vision for this. Michnovetz has so much energy and so many twists and turns he built into the plot. Athena Portillo is a gunslinger of a producer, and we get to do this all for Dave Filoni, who created the show. So he has the overall vision, but we are lucky enough to execute on it, and it's been really, really fun. It really is like hanging out with your friends and making your own Star Wars. It's fun.
Gideon, welcome to Star Wars. Can you tell us a little bit about learning that you're going to be working on a Star Wars project?
Of course. When I initially auditioned for it, I thought I was going in for a 1920s mafia New York TV show. I had no clue. And then I went in for the in-person callback, which was also kind of the chemistry read. And then I knew. And the weight of that hitting somebody is like, oh my goodness. Okay, this is Star Wars. And she is a Jedi. It's kind of anyone's dream, really, to be a part of this world, this galaxy. So it hit me pretty hard. But straight away, I walked in, and the first person that greeted me with a very strong, comforting handshake was Sam. And ever since then, really just having him by my side, and the whole team actually, it's very quickly become a family, which has also helped ease me into this whole thing and make me feel comfortable in the world, which can be a lot of pressure, but it's been really great.
Hello, this is Keith and Kerwin at Father Son Galaxy.
Hi.
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 Hello. My question is for Mr. Witwer. There's an interview where you discussed a moment where you outgeeked Dave Filoni. How long have you been a Star Wars fan, and what sparked your passion for the saga?
Well, I think my generation, we were born with it. We had no choice but to be quoting those three movies when we were growing up. It's just built into your brain when you were born, when I was, or when Dave Filoni was. And I will tell you, you know, I suppose it's a proud moment that I got him once, because he's gotten me many, many times where I was going to go off and do some wild thing. And he goes, now, Sam, you must remember that in Attack of the Clones, this happened. Oh, right. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. You know, the guy, he was a Star Wars encyclopedia since before he was George's Padawan. And I do love that we are making a show here with Maul Shadowlord, created by the one guy who knows Star Wars better than anyone, save George Lucas. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. I love this stuff. Star Wars is like my favorite thing. And yeah, I mean, you know, I actually will send Dave Filoni pictures of Star Wars minis that I paint. This is real. This happens.
Sam,
So,
you've never shown that.
you don't want to see, if you want to see, I'll send them to you. Yeah, I've painted Ewoks. It has happened. I paint them to look like my dogs. So that's yeah, I love Star Wars so very much. I'm a fan first before anything.
A question for Gideon. I like asking questions about sort of the characters and Star Wars, and Devon's a really interesting character, and I'm curious, watching the episodes, Devon seems really torn about her master and a lot of the really compelling things that Maul has to say, and I'm really interested in your take on that and how you brought that to life.
Right. Devon is young, and she has, you know, a few paths in front of her, and she's figuring out what she wants to take. I think the reason that she listens to Maul so deeply, even though maybe she doesn't want to admit that she is because she sees a very extreme similarity between the two of them. They reflect each other in ways. Maybe Maul from his childhood, maybe he sees himself in Devon. Devon might see herself, her future self in him, you know, who knows? But, you know, she's trying to figure out her path. And it's difficult, and she's very young, and she loves her master Daki and would do anything for him. And I think the journey that you'll see Devon take really shows her love and nobility and what she would do for her master, but also shows that she's really trying to figure out who she is. And that curiosity she has will go to extreme lengths. I hope I didn't give too much away. There we go. It's so scary trying to talk about it and get in trouble.
Hi, I'm Caitlin from Skytalkers. It's so great to talk with both of you today. My question is for Sam. You've performed Maul at many stages in his life and always brought a new shade and tonality to his voice each time. Was there anything different about your vocal performance for this period of Maul's life for you?
Hopefully it's a different performance every time, I think, because I'm I think it's my job to kind of reinvent him. And we've done this before, right? You know, when we did Maul to begin with, we started him as this very crazed creature, really, when he was on Lothal Minor. Then there was early Clone Wars, which, you know, the young apprentice doing what he was trained to do, and yet doing it in a different way because, you know, he trained so hard to kind of, you know, train to be an Olympic athlete, and then he missed the Olympics. So then he started following through on his training, building up armies and such, building up the first version of the Shadow Collective. But that was all sort of him doing what he was programmed to do. When you get to late Clone Wars, he's starting to think for himself a little bit more. And he's also had the experience of losing his family, losing Savage Opress. And so there have been a lot of things that have starting to spark thoughts, and he's starting to realize and recognize that perhaps Sidious is the true source of his suffering. Then you jump over to Rebels, and he's an old man at the end of his rope, old master. So every time I think it is on us to bring a new version of that character to the audience, because otherwise what would be the point? You know, if you've already seen Maul, why would you need to see that version again? We already have that, right? So this version of Maul is a Maul who is reassessing everything about his life and is really rather confused and doesn't, as much as he loves to think of himself as the master, and he has a whole plan and a bigger plan and wheels within wheels. I don't think he totally knows where this is all going. I think he has a lot of questions. You know, like, for example, I mean, you know, he was trained to hate the Jedi Knights by Sidious. Well, if you look around and you see the Empire now that Sidious was building, and you thought you knew what that would be, but now you're seeing the real Empire. And it's grotesque and it's awful. Might you start questioning absolutely everything he said to you? And how far could you go with that questioning, considering his indoctrination was the first and only thing you knew through all of the formative years of your life? So Maul is trying his best to break out of that. You know, how he regards the Jedi Knights, for example, would be like, wow, you know, they were rather extraordinary if asleep at the wheel. So he weirdly is trying to look at everything through new eyes. He's trying to have a new respect for certain things, but this is all through the training and limited tools of someone who was raised by the most diabolical Sith Lord of all time. So, yeah.
Hi, this is Sarah from Skywalking Through Neverland, and I had a question for both of you. I want to talk about the recording sessions, and I wanted to know, like, what is your process for tapping into your characters' voices? Is it something physical or mental or both? Gideon, can we start with you?
Sure. I think it's always both. Physicality in a voiceover booth is very important in terms of, you know, performance. The way you move is going to affect the way your voice sounds, and Star Wars is very physical. You know, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of emotion, there's crying, there's screaming, and you got to move with it. So just having an environment that's so, like, we trust each other. Sam and I really trust each other, and like, it's, if you're not ready to let go and to really just dive into that, it could for somebody, but it's really become, you know, just a very important part of my work, having Sam there with me always to record. We bounce off each other very well, and it's been lovely.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to approach these scenes if I didn't have Gideon there. You just don't know. You wouldn't know what to do. I rely entirely on her because she's so surprising. She's such a surprising actor and so committed. So, yeah, it would be, my performance is entirely dependent on hers.
Thanks very much. Thanks both Sam and Gideon for taking the time to talk to us. Gideon, this one's for you. This isn't your first foray into a Star Wars character. You played Pac Relda in Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. You voiced that character as well.
Is this true?
I think I did. Did I? I might have. Did I? I remember doing that. Oh my goodness. It must have been a very tiny little one line.
It was.
Thing.
I think your character really liked Galaxy's Edge, if I remember rightly. So, yeah.
I feel such a sense of betrayal here, guys. I thought that
no, Sam, you shouldn't.
It was a small.
Confused as you are, but I will say this really is my. This is my hello to the Star Wars.
Okay, because I was going to ask how that compared, and obviously that's very much a young preschool show, whereas this is grown up.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be rude to anybody, but I don't remember doing that.
It's okay.
I don't remember it. I don't remember that.
Well, I'm going to remember it when I'm seeing it. I can't wait to see it. I want to see you in a Young Jedi Adventure. That sounds amazing.
This is my introduction to Star Wars, truly. This whole situation.
I didn't mean to get you into trouble.
No, I don't think you are. I think this is really funny, actually.
I'm teasing.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
No, but that's the thing. I hope that Gideon has a long road with Star Wars, playing all kinds of different characters, because her talent would we would do well to use her as often as we can, because she's so talented and committed.
Thanks. This is William Dever with Ion Cannon Podcast. My question is for Sam. Sam, Maul's return in the Clone Wars back in 2012, hard to believe it was that long ago, was a seismic moment for the character and for Star Wars storytelling. And now 14 years later, he's finally the lead of his own series. What does that mean for you to see Maul step into the spotlight as the central protagonist? And how has that also shaped your performance and how you approach this?
It's trickier than it seems. If it seems inevitable, if it seems breezy, that's because Brad is a very talented filmmaker. But figuring out how to play him in this show was not a straightforward process. Because Star Wars is such a moral mythology. It's about selfishness versus selflessness. And so to put one of the more selfish characters in a protagonist situation, it kind of blurs the lines between protagonist and antagonist, It's a situation in which we must now understand why he does everything he does. We do not necessarily need to agree with him, though. That's the key. Hopefully, if I'm doing my job right, people are absorbing from these performances that he's not the happiest guy, and that this is not the best path to being a happy, actualized person. Maul has a lot of problems and a lot of flaws, and one of his flaws is he seems to have the facts straight a lot. He seems to tell the truth a lot, but his interpretation of those facts, I think, can be questioned. He doesn't ask himself where his own suffering is actually his responsibility. He loves to point the finger at others. And the problem with him is that, in fact, he's right to an extent. Now, for example, when it comes to Darth Sidious, Darth Sidious is the initial source of his suffering, but there comes a point where everyone has to take responsibility for themselves and their own actions, and can no longer blame other people for them reacting or acting in a way that is not very cool, in a way that's negative, a way that's hurtful. So that's a step that Maul has a hard time taking, or making the step. Do people take steps or make steps? I'm not really sure. But yeah, it's interesting. He's really trying to be different. He really is. But his father figure, the man who raised him, is Darth Sidious. So how much success is Maul going to have? Wait and see.
Hi guys, Mark from Fantha Tracks here. Question for Gideon. Dave Filoni casts are notoriously known for being a great commune, a great group of people, very much working together. How have you found the cast on this show?
Fantastic. I mean, we have Dennis Haysbert, we have Wagner Moura, Charlie Bushnell, we have incredible people, and I've been so lucky, and I felt so coddled you can just, as an actor joining this group of artists, you can just feel how much time they took to cast this show and the work that they put in to find these artists to portray these characters in this new zone of the galaxy. I don't know how to put it properly. Zone of the galaxy, Sam?
Zone of the galaxy. I like it. I'm going to back you up on that.
You can just feel it, how Dave is particular in welcoming people into this world. And actually, now that you say it, like, yeah, it's just every day it becomes more and more of an honor, truly, that I get to be a part of it as well.
Before everyone goes, one of the things I want to state is a lot of people ask the question, what do you have to watch before you enjoy this show? What do I need to see? What do I need to catch up on before I can watch Maul Shadowlord? The answer, nothing. Nothing at all. This show's got you. If you have never seen Star Wars before, you will understand what's happening in this show. If you have no idea who Darth Maul is, don't worry. We got you. You'll learn all about him through the show. And there's all these other wonderful characters that will engage you and surprise you. The top of that list being Devon. It's a wonderful, wonderful show, and you do not need to do any homework to enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Wow. So Sam Witwer took a little moment there to step on his soapbox at the end.
He's like, don't leave. I have to tell you this.
It's like no one's clicking the leave button. Don't worry. So what did you think about that? His statement there.
That no one needs to, you don't need to know anything to watch the show. I would say knowing stuff about Maul will help you enjoy that character's progression more. But there are so many other characters that are going on journeys that those characters are going to allow you to learn, because they don't know Maul, right? And so as far as learning the character, they have to present him to all the other characters in the universe. So yes, I think he's right. It's a way to get into the idea of Star Wars without needing to know everything. And the setting is separate too. So like, you don't need to know, oh, this world and this happened on this world, blah, blah, blah. Like we're all learning that together.
True. Yeah. It's all set on Janix, like this one place. And you kind of get bits and pieces of the story of Maul's story. But yeah, if you focus on the other characters, they're all being introduced to you like new. So, okay. I see where he's coming from. Because at first, when I watched the show in the first episode, I'm like, okay, now when is this set? I was having all these issues and I could just have let go and just let the story wash over me. So I think that's what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
I like it. Now, Trisha, you got to ask the second question. I was so happy you got to be called right away.
I know, because then you don't have to cross your questions off because people are asking them. I get to ask my number one question.
Yeah.
Which was finding out about you're going to be in Star Wars, because they usually don't know that they're auditioning for Star Wars. We know that from like Rebels stuff, and like, there's been different times when, people have been like, well, I was auditioning for this. And then, Dave Filoni shows up and then you're like, oh. That's what I'm doing. So yeah.
Yeah. So she thought it was 1920s mafia New York City TV series, which makes total sense. I mean, that noir vibe is totally in this series, like all the way down to like the detective, right? The detective and the bad guys. And you could almost see Maul with a fedora in the shadows. That would be great. But yeah, what did you think of Gideon?
I was very impressed. She's very composed, but that doesn't like shock me at all. And I really liked kind of the vibe between her and Sam, as far as, they sound like they really have a rapport, and, he's a very talented actor. So for me, if I were a young actress getting into voice acting, I'd want him telling me what to do. 'Cause he knows how to articulate things. in a way, like why he does things with his voice, and he's trained, and he can I've interview after interview I've seen from him over the years, he can tell you details about why he does this, why the choices that he made. And yeah, I love it.
In fact, that's what I was kind of going for with my question. Like, what are like specific details that you do to prepare for your character? Honestly, they didn't really answer that like specifically, but we got a different answer that I did enjoy. And one of the things that I wanted to know, but I thought it was too little of a question, was do they record in studio together? Because all the rebels, they always had recording sessions together in person. And it was like, you could tell, right? That rapport was in that series. And so we got that answer. They record together. Now, I don't know if it's virtually or not, but they're definitely recording the session together, and that they play off each other. And I thought Sam Witwer was especially effusive, saying that he couldn't have done this without Gideon. And like his reactions to her are what made the show. They rely on each other. I thought that was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we head into the creator roundtable?
Yes.
I'm excited about this. Okay. So we got to speak with the 3 executive producers of the show. And, we mentioned Matt Michnovetz, and I was especially excited to hear from him because this is the first time we've ever had an opportunity to speak with him. And like you said, he has been involved in Clone Wars, in Rebels, in Bad Batch, just writing. And now here he is, an executive producer and writer on the series. And then you have Athena Portillo, who is the executive producer. And I know we were both very excited to talk to her. And then supervising director Brad Rau, who we have also talked about with Bad Batch. He's been on those roundtables. So if you are only listening to the audio here, just everyone know that Matt is the very energetic one.
Yes. You will know the energetic one is Matt.
Sounds like Richard. I was like, there's some vibes here that are very similar. And then Athena is very technical. And Brad Rau, he's a little more soft-spoken, but when he speaks, it's very important. So yeah.
I'm always impressed by Brad Rau's kind of storytelling chops.
Yeah.
And again, anytime we've ever interviewed him, like he's a very thoughtful person, and he's doing things for a reason, and they've explored all the options on something. Why are we doing this, and how does it weave into the Star Wars that we already have?
Exactly. All right.
All right. So we'll let them have their conversation.
My question is for Matt. You've been writing Star Wars for so long. How much of the show is David Filoni asking you to do it? How much of this is you begging for this to be made?
That's a great question. It's constant. It's just a constant recipe. It's Filoni with all his brilliant ideas and throwing them at us, and me and this incredible team just rolling with it, and then trying to make it work.
Thank you. I loved it. So it was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, my question's for Athena. Through all this time, Star Wars' animation's been improving and trying to get better. What was something you wanted to improve or learn through this show?
I've been wanting to improve the body mechanics. So the first thing we did was go into the rigs to see what additional pivot points and blend shapes were necessary to give each character their own personality. I also wanted to upgrade the facial animation. And we were lucky to have Sam Witwer be open to us recording him. He would actually drive from LA to here, and we would video reference his face. We wouldn't do mocap, but we would pass off that information to our internal animation team and to our CG animation team to try to get the emotion and nuances to come through in the character. So that was a lot of fun to do, and I'm glad we were able to do it.
Hello, this is Kerwin and Keith of Father-Son Galaxy.
My question is for all 3 of you. Could you tell us about the look of Janix, and what were your inspirations for the city's landscape?
Yes. Our inspiration for the city landscape was an artist by the name of Jeremy Mann, as well as the film Blade Runner, to try to get that pulpy, painterly brush stroke look. We actually would do oil on canvas matte paintings, shoot those and composite them to give it that type of feel.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so fun. Yeah, a lot of Sid Mead from Blade Runner we were looking at. One big thing we wanted to do is make sure that it didn't look like Coruscant, make it feel very different and vibrant and be a character of its own as we go to different lower depths of the city and strange new areas. And it's fun. It's a really cool place.
And create fun set pieces for all the wild roller coaster action that we have.
Hey, it's Brian from Full of Sith. Star Wars is very much part of this legacy of storytelling about really hopeful stories about people overcoming evil, and we have a show about a character who's sort of known for being evil, and this show managed to thread a needle of maintaining hope while centering Darth Maul, and I'm wondering what conversations there were behind the scenes about threading that needle.
Hope. I mean,
Yeah.
Filoni would always say when we're working on these projects to always incorporate hope into what you do, to bring some light to darkness. So even though he's a villain, there's some ways to resonate with the fact that there are mistakes that are made, the fact that there was loss of family in his, childhood and all. And even though he's seeking revenge, it is something that you don't empathize with the revenge. You just empathize with the fact of how much he lost.
Yeah, and we have some really interesting new characters to contrast against that darkness. We like to say the hope will shine brighter against darker darkness. And this show is a great example of that. Devon, played by Gideon Adlon, Captain Brander Lawson, played by Wagner Moura, are really, there's so many characters, but those two in particular, they have their own agendas, but they're the good guys. They're trying to fight against the evil. So how we filmed that, how we wrote that, how we had the musical cues played to that was a big thing. We talked about it constantly.
Yeah, it's been a constant challenge, but we've been threading that needle nonstop to craft this series.
Hi, I'm Charlotte from Skytalkers. Thanks so much for chatting with us today. What can you tell us about the creation of our new character, Devon, and the process of developing her story alongside Maul's during this time period? Was she always going to be a former Jedi?
It's interesting you say that. We did have quite the evolution for that character at one point. It was another character. It was Brander Lawson's son, actually.
That's right.
And we pivoted from that because we found more story in what we ended up doing and challenging, to say the least. But she's a very interesting character. She's got this kind of devil on her shoulder in Maul.
Bright suns, everyone. Oh, bright suns, except if you live on Janix. One of the standouts of the series so far is this watercolor aesthetic. At what point in the development of the series did you decide to use this visual style?
Pretty much in the very beginning, we talk about the aesthetic that we want to move the show into. Pretty much at the same time as we're developing in the writers' conference. There's sketches that are being made. We're talking about what films influence us, what painters, artists influence us. So those discussions are up front because you kind of have to have an idea of what aesthetic you want to move towards to make sure you stick within parameters.
Yeah, and one thing too that Dave told us early on, he wanted to see the hand of the artist in frame. Okay, Dave, let's figure this out. So we've been talking about it in different interviews. It's fascinating. Our director of lighting, Joel Aaron, the mad wizard that he is, he would literally paint on glass and then photograph those images and incorporate them into the flesh tones and into the effects. And so we followed Dave's directive, and it helped us develop the style.
So my question is, why was now the right time to fill in Maul's story? And what challenges did you all face to bring him his own series?
Challenge-wise, in terms of the visuals and production, I would say we upgraded about 20 to 30% of what we were doing previously. We wanted to try something new. We actually went back to old school ways of producing things by way of creating miniatures. We also did oil on canvas matte paintings that we then photographed and incorporated into the show. We upgraded the rigs for the animation, body mechanics, and facial performances. So in that front, that was the challenge, but it was a fun challenge to have. So we wanted to kind of upgrade it into more like cinematic sophistication.
Yeah, and this show is the hardest show I've ever worked on. This show is the best show I've ever worked on. I think those kind of go hand in hand. And getting our character story is more nuanced than we've done on other shows, and our action is a little crazier than we've done on other shows. Those are really massive challenges. But it's super fun. We can't wait for everybody to see it.
Let's see, staying spoiler free, is there an episode this season that stands out to you as your favorite, whether it's because of the story, the animation, or what it meant for the team behind the scenes? And if so, why? For all three of you, something for fans to maybe look forward to.
That's a hard one because I love all of it. I would say though, my favorite would be, how many episodes have you seen?
The first 8.
Okay, the 8th episode is one of my favorites just because it was extremely challenging and complex to achieve. And we had 2 rounds of creative retake notes. So we had to keep that episode open. We were even down to the wire of lighting, doing effects, even in post-production. We typically don't do that. We're usually like ahead, but we felt that it was important to get everything in there for that. And going into Maul's mental psyche in those 3 tunnel sequences, some of my favorite performances from Sam and the work done by the team.
Episode 10, you haven't seen it yet. That's my favorite episode.
And I will add that I love them all for various reasons, but wait till you get to the last couple.
Ooh. I like seeing the reactions on everyone's face. It's great.
Love it. Thanks.
Everyone, thank you.
Hi guys, Mark from Fantha Tracks. Love the look of Janix. It looks amazing. Love the fact that you got the design into the comic as well, into Shadow of Maul, which I thought was a great move. But my question is about Brander Lawson. I think he's a brilliant character. What were the inspirations for him? He's like a detective. He's got the whole family thing going on. Was there an inspiration for that kind of character in Star Wars?
Yeah, I mean, look, we took a lot of these touchstones from classic serials that, with the DNA behind Star Wars, then a lot of modern cinema from like Heat to The Dark Knight to The Untouchables. I think we constantly take those touchstones and we talk about some of these characters like the Al Pacino Hannah character from Heat.
Huge.
There's a big part of that in Lawson. He's, one part Batman,
Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
A little John McClane.
John McClane, yeah. Die Hard.
Yeah.
For Brad, directing this series, can you tell us about what are any specific challenges on this show versus all the other ones that you've directed in the past?
Yeah, they're all a challenge. The serialized nature of this show is new for us, and it brought its own challenges. We were talking about it a little bit in some of the other answers that we normally we'll go through the process of locking an episode and then we move on to the next episode. We couldn't do that. We had to keep them all terrifyingly, Athena, open a little bit, right? So as a director, just keeping, my eye on the prize so that we could tell the story as well as possible was just a challenge of its own. Also, the action, I love action so much. And when we're doing action right, it is a character of its own, the action set piece. So how we would take these amazing scripts from Maddie and his team and design these sets and how we film them. And I still don't know how we did some things, Athena. There were some crazy challenges all the way through, but our action was really, really difficult and really, really awesome.
I also felt like it was important to keep the episodes open because practice makes perfect. This was a whole new look for us. And I didn't want to be in a situation where I'm like, wow, episode 4 looks great. Gosh, I wish episode 1 looked that way. It has to be right out the gate. So once we got into it and we understood what we were doing halfway through, we're like, all right, let's go back to 101 and 102 and redo certain sequences, to make sure that we have the animation correct, the look correct, everything makes sense. We also do continuity reviews where we look at the episodes over and over again to make sure we're not missing anything in that thread and everything makes sense. And in those continuity reviews, we have even more retakes because, it's like we have to have those contingency plans in there. So it's done.
Yeah. Plus, we like keeping Brad on his toes.
Yes.
Yeah. But this team, come on, we're having so much fun, but it's a challenge. This is the best in the biz. Like our team is so good. That's the only way we can do any of this stuff.
I'm having so much fun.
Yeah, you don't often get to tell a character story, like to deal with it this often. Like, what are the lessons learned of getting to really get into a character at a different stage?
Oh, wow. Honestly, it's been a challenge, and we are constantly trying to sort of write ourselves into a corner and then, figure out ways to get out of that, right? Drive ourselves crazy getting out of it and finding new situations, new facets, nuance, and depth to Maul, in addition to all these other new characters who are stuck together with him in this crazy roller coaster ride.
Sam Witwer has been a huge influence in keeping the character authentic and coming up with those ideas with Matt and Brad, and it's been awesome to witness that collaboration.
Huge.
Yes, Darth Maul met his demise in The Phantom Menace, but he returned from the dead, as we know. But since then, he's had several fascinating stories featuring Maul. Why do you believe Maul is so popular with Star Wars fans after more than 25 years?
The mystery of Maul, even as fans, when we first saw Phantom Menace, who is this guy? What is going on? And the fact that George and Dave and Maddie and Athena brought him back in the Clone Wars, I think the mystery of him is so tantalizing. And everybody loves a bad boy. Come on.
He's so charismatic.
His wardrobe's awesome.
His wardrobe is
and his wardrobe, his boots.
His boots.
Athena, this is a lot for you on the production side. After 20 years of Lucasfilm animation, every season of every show seems to take a light year forward in sort of quality of production animation. How much of that comes from just how much you all have been able to produce over the years? Like, how much are you able to reuse from show to show? Does that affect the look of things?
It's a very good question. We try to reuse a lot, but there comes a point where you have to ask yourself, do you want to start from scratch or do you want to Frankenstein something? And sometimes when you Frankenstein something, it takes a lot more time and a lot more budget to get it to that point that you want to get it to. That's why we do a lot of development. I created a system called Waves, where you have, like, how can I say this so that it's understandable? Like 3 sets of design waves to equal a pilot of a script, because the pilot is going to be the first episode where you build the entire environment, all your characters, all the props, the vehicles, the projection mats, everything that you need. You can't just do that within 6 to 8 weeks, which is the time frame you get for one episode to design. So you get like 3 waves of 12 weeks to build an entire universe. There may be times where you can go to a particular grayscale like model and not use the textures from like Rebels or from Clone Wars and then retexture it to get that painterly look. But it's we rather do it from scratch to get it right. Plus the technology changes. There's different like versions of Maya out there, like Houdini and all of that we have to use. And we also have our internal proprietary tools that we utilize as well. But every show has been a challenge, but I have to say this one has been the most fun, but the most challenging. That the joke I say is, if I were to get hit by a bus or my plane goes down, this would be the best show, like in my book, that I'd be happy to say that I've been a part of. And I always say that. That's why Filoni called me morbid, because I'll talk to Alex Spotswood, who was our co-EP. I'm like, dude, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I got to tell you where the budget is right now and where all those EFCs are. So we talk about those things every day.
Keep her away from buses.
No buses.
No buses.
No buses and planes.
And
no planes.
I just got to say, Athena is the best producer I've ever worked with.
Oh,
the best in biz.
best.
And there's no way we can dream up all kinds of crazy stuff.
And we do.
But there's no way we could. I mean, we were just talking about it today. Is there anything we've dreamt up we couldn't do? The answer is no, because Athena is incredible.
It takes a village. It takes the whole team. And to answer your question too, we've worked with a lot of the same people in the last 20 years. And again, it's an internal family. The more you do it together, the more you understand the flow, you speak each other's language, everything becomes like an assembly line. And we just love doing what we're doing.
We love it. Sure.
Thank you so much.
Season two.
I have to say, it's usually the most exciting things to talk to the actors. That tends to be, but this was one of the most fun creator panels. They were sitting together and they were all just really excited about the show. And I hope everybody got that vibe out of this interview, because they are really excited for this show.
Yeah, you can tell. And I mean, this show is beautiful. And so Richard definitely wanted to ask the question, like, how did this painterly animation style come about? And in their answer, we really learned about their development process. And I think I knew this in my head, but to have Athena state that really the story and the look of the show are developed together years before the finale. So I love that. I would have loved to ask the follow-up question, like, what story-wise does that mean for the show, this painterly style? Like, what is that bringing out? But I think we can answer ourselves, right? Maul himself, I would say, is a bit, I don't know. He's like all over the place. Like he's got his revenge. He doesn't know how to do it. So he's just like throwing out ideas and trying different things that are all based on this revenge. And it's like not working for him.
And there was the comment that Dave Filoni wanted to see the artist's hand in the animation itself. So like you can almost see like it looks like, you know, pencil marks or the artist marks. So it's not like they don't look like perfect. It looks like it's art.
Yeah.
And in a really, really beautiful way. And there was a couple of points that they definitely answered things that I thought were happening where I was like, oh my God, that almost looks like they're doing the animation over like a matte painting. And they did confirm that. And some of those paintings are really gorgeous, but they're not like, as I would say, maybe detailed as you are used to, right?
It's impressionism,
yes.
Right? That's exactly what it is. And yeah, some of the lines, like a lot of those wide shots of the city, you know, you can see that it's a matte painting. It's exactly what they mentioned. So yeah, you absolutely see that artist's hand.
If you're original trilogy fan, you're used to that, right? A lot of the stuff in the movie was matte paintings, but your brain just goes, okay, it's a painting, but I accept it. It is a reality.
Mary Poppins, Hook.
Yep.
Yeah. New Hope. Yep. All of that. Also, I loved to hear all this praise heaped on Athena Portillo. You know, from Sam Witwer saying that she's the gunslinger of a producer to finally towards the end, both guys were like, oh, we couldn't do the show without Athena. Like that was very sweet. Well, it was great.
And we've gone to the last two celebrations where Dave's made a point of bringing Athena out, and even I want to say Anaheim, which how many celebrations ago was
2022?
That? Yeah, she was doing like a producers panel that was not in the main room, but like in a medium-sized room where she kind of talked about like, you know, it's about financials and budget and scope and timing. And we got to hear her speak about like that she now allows them produce in waves to get to the beginning. Like she schedules time for them to figure it out before they start, as opposed to saying, we're just going to start. She's like, no, we're going to take a certain amount of time and get when we do engineering, we call it like our scoping and pre-design. That's kind of how I hear her talking about it. So when you have these massive projects, if you can spend a little bit of time just getting everything that you need together, the process is so much smoother. So her job is to make sure that they make it on budget and on time. And she decides when an episode starts and when it is locked in. That's her job, and that we're not spending any more money on this. I know the director wants to do more things, but it's her job to say, no, now we're delivering it to people. And you get to get a little bit more of that she's the boss, like ultimately as this executive producer. And she's also a vice president at Lucasfilm. So she's running the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also I thought it was interesting where they mentioned that they wouldn't lock the first several episodes until a few more episodes have been done, so that if they needed to make any changes that would help the whole show be more serialized, that's what they did. So yeah, talking to them it was fascinating. And you got to ask Athena her questions. A question.
Yeah. And that was, about the production goals, like, because we always know they do something different, like every time they're trying to do either a different style of animation or go a little Ghibli or a little 2D animation, or they're gonna and whatever it is, they're always trying to learn something different. And all this stuff applies people don't realize that all this stuff applies to everything they do. I thought it was actually interesting what she answered about sometimes it's just better to start over, like to not just
to not use
an
existing
asset.
assets, but start over so that you can build it in the right computer, the right system, the right program that will allow you to see it through fruition. Yeah. And I definitely understand that. Yeah.
I mean, when you're like talking to somebody on a project and they can just like fire off the answers, it's just because they know it. Like that's her job. So it doesn't even, people come and ask her questions and she answers quickly and has to, I'm sure explain her job to, Disney execs, and not too many people at Lucasfilm does she have to explain her job to, but she knows how to explain what she's doing.
Yeah. She's good at it. It's obvious. That was awesome. Well, we do want to thank Disney and Lucasfilm for inviting us to this roundtable. And it also brought us together with some of our friends. So, including us, there was also Father Son Galaxy, Full of Sith, Skytalkers, Skywalking Through Neverland, Ion Canon Podcast, Fantha Tracks, Jedi News, and Endor Express. And I thought we all had some really nice questions. In fact, it was really fun in the Sam Witwer and Gideon Adlon one. It was almost like back and forth. Sam, Gideon. It was like a really good mix of questions.
Yeah. And I love that because, you don't know when if we were just doing an interview, we would plan out very detailed to make sure that we were getting everybody, but you don't know that that's going to happen. I always go in and I would like to talk to the women in the room. That's just, one of my goals. But there were a lot of other people that pointed questions at her. So that was exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So should we get into our review of the show? Okay. So we did get to watch 8 of the 10 episodes, not the finale.
Not the one. Yeah. When they said that their favorite episode was
number 10,
Matt and Brad said the 10 and all our faces were like, like, mouths open and hands waving, and they all sort of giggled.
Yeah. That was funny. So Trisha, why don't you share your overall reaction on what you've seen?
Yeah, and we're not going to spoil, we're not going to give you plot points. We're just going to talk about impressions, and I'm sure as the show goes on, we're going to go back and discuss more storytelling points. So, actually,
yes.
Let's start with you.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, this show is not exactly what I expected, because you hear the title is Maul Shadow Lord. You're like, okay, we're going to get into Maul and all of this. And honestly, I don't know, at least 50% of this series is more about the other characters surrounding Maul. In fact, hunting Maul. And I feel like the story took a little while to get going in the first 4-ish episodes. But then, by the last, 7 and 8, I mean, you're just totally sucked in, and the different locations you're in. Oh my God, I can't wait to have a location discussion with you, Trisha, because we know the location is all about storytelling.
Exactly.
But we can't do that now. We can't do that yet.
I agree on the pace of it. The first 4 episodes felt a little bit like we were setting things up. It wasn't that I was bored. It was just I wanted to get
there wasn't a lot of
more
storytelling taking place. It was more it was a little slow, not bad, but you felt like that could have been told in one episode.
Yeah, maybe. I think of the beginning of A New Hope. The beginning of A New Hope's actually a little slow as well. And I feel like if you were going to compare it to something, it sort of takes that time to get you to the point where it can get to episode 5 and things really start happening. So I'm not going to say they were boring. I'm just saying that they kind of took that A New Hope type of pace of setting things up before they ran with the show.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, so we're on this new planet, Janix, right?
Yes.
So what do you think of that?
Well, they talked about the Blade Runner inspiration, which I was like, that's definitely what I felt from it. It's different enough, right? From anything that we've seen. And
I mean, it kind of reminded me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. What's that planet he goes to with all the neon.
Oh yeah.
It reminded me of that a little bit.
Yep.
But I mean, this painterly vibe just gives it a whole new look to begin with. So a little different. I'm sorry, I don't remember the planet, but
I don't either.
Yeah.
You know, we have to look it up. But it does help that it takes place in a new place.
Right.
Because you don't have to know the things that are happening, and we're learning stuff as everybody else would be learning something, like kind of, about the, they use tropes like from procedurals for police shows,
yes,
right?
yes.
And there's ideas like that. The robot Two Boots, who's like the partner of the main detective, Lawson, is, not a droid that we're familiar with, but we see like a 3PO type of droid at the beginning. So,
right.
You see some Star Wars, but then you have some new type of droids. But I just like the location because it's not Coruscant, but it's definitely like this, big metropolis, right? Which is, you think of like Batman or something.
That's true. Yeah. It is a lot of Batman kind of Gotham City a little bit. I could definitely, actually, I think it relates more to Gotham City than to Coruscant at this point.
And although there was a lot of like, in the underworld parts, it's very dark, but there are parts of the show on the setting that are very light. Like the city looks bright and light. So it's like, it almost says to me that the Empire hasn't casted shadow yet.
Ooh.
Where we look at Coruscant and we always think it's dark, it looks dark. We always see Coruscant typically in the nighttime. Or I think in Endor, a lot of times it was just kind of moody and gray.
Yes.
But there were shots of this, world that were great.
Yeah. And in fact, this also, the fact that the Empire hasn't gotten its hooks in this world yet, it reminds me of the beginning of Andor season 1 with Preox Morlana, and you are following the officer, you're following Cyril, and he's a Preox Morlana what is it? Preox officer? Yeah. Premor. That's their he's a Premor officer, and they have to manage stuff on their own. They have their own judiciary. They have their own police force and everything. And the Empire hasn't come yet. So that's kind of what we're seeing.
Until they mess up.
Yeah, until they mess up. Exactly. Yeah. So this is what we're seeing here on Janix is that society.
The style we've mentioned a little bit, just the kind of the look, but what do you think of just like the style itself and how it evokes things in the story?
Oh God, well, that's a big question. Okay, well, first of all, being a artist myself, I keep on having to make myself pay attention to what the characters are saying instead of like my eyes wandering around the screen. Like I want to see this on the big screen. I think that would give it that Blade Runner vibe, very much so. I feel like there's more detail than ever before in any other Star Wars animated series, which makes sense, right? These people, Athena was saying that for 20 years, these same people have been working together to create Star Wars animation. And with every series, the technology improves, their equipment improves, and just their expertise improves. And so each successive series gets more and more detailed and interesting, and all this line work that happens in the background of the city, it moves around when there's these close-up shots of Maul, his face, like even within his red in the face there seems to be like different splotches of red that are moving almost, right? It sucks you in, and I'm like, oh, what's he saying? So maybe that's why Devon is drawn to him, right? She's like, oh, I'm looking at your face. I'm hypnotized.
Well, Teresa would say he is very sexy, right?
Yes, she would.
Yes, she would. So, and it's funny because I'm not a dark side girl. You're not a dark side girl typically. I did write the dark side book, but my angle was when I wrote that was to kind of take it more from the perspective of trying to understand why people choose the dark side. And so that, and Maul was a big part of what I wrote about in it. So to me, he is a very compelling character, because you want to understand like what makes him tick. And really, we don't know really what makes him tick yet, right? There is room to understand.
I would say it's revenge, but
well, revenge, but who was he before he was?
Oh,
who was he before Sidious picked him up? Who was he? And maybe it was around the same time as Devon. He's choosing to take. You tend to repeat things, right?
Okay.
And I just wonder, like, what can we learn about the character? And this is why I'm not surprised that it's announced already second season, because we don't even you don't get all of it in the show yet.
No, unless we get it in these final 2 episodes we haven't seen. But yeah.
I do want to say that the animation style really lends itself to some amazing fight sequences. And in a way that, not to say we have had amazing fight sequences in animation, but this is really different. And there's an amazing sequence on a train, but Athena particularly mentions episode 8 as her favorite episode, which is called The Creeping Fear. And that one is quite spectacular. 8 is when we get a bunch of
we get further down.
Sith on former Sith.
Yes. yes. Episode 8. Yeah. I loved the change in location, but that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
For that one right now. Yeah. There's some incredible stuff, and I'm sure the finale is going to be even more incredible.
Yeah. We're going to be able to have some fun discussions about location and setting as storytellers with this show, like these
and
people,
music.
Yes, that is true too. And music.
I do have to say, so in the roundtable, I think I was like they were going around again for questions with the creatives, and I was like 2 away. And then Athena's answer was really long, and I was like, oh, they're not going to get to me. I was going to ask him a music question. Darn
it.
I know. But really, I just need to get the Kiners on what
I mean,
I
the
need
most
their number.
interesting thing to me was all the times Duel of Fates
sort
of showed up, but they don't finish the song. It's
it's very
I would love to ask them about that.
Yeah, there was some choral, and that was my question, was based on like there's some choral melody, but there's also this like interesting softer melody, and they all seem to be shadowed around Maul. And I wanted to ask about those differences, and oh well, it's okay.
Well, just have to reach out to the Kiners.
Yes. Yes. So should we talk about Maul a little bit?
Of course.
All right. Well, go ahead.
My thing with him in this is we actually see him be vulnerable. Because we think of him as this kind of prowess of a character who, fights a Jedi in their prime, a Jedi master and his Padawan that in their prime and defeats him. So you think he's like powerful and impressive. And then of course in the Clone Wars, when he came back, he was a little kind of crazy with the spider legs, but still very powerful. And you do see a little vulnerability, but not a lot in the Clone Wars. Sidious is the one that makes him vulnerable, but there's more of it in this where we get to kind of sit with him a little bit, I think is how I would say it.
Well, yeah, he's been kicked down, right? He was the leader of some of these crime syndicates, and they all betrayed him. So now not only has he got revenge for the Emperor, he's got revenge for these stupid crime syndicate people in his head, right? And his team around him is, I mean, he's still dangerous. Like Maul is still a dangerous guy. He exudes power. He exudes just like ferocity, I suppose. And even though he does show some the way he's vulnerable is when he's like sensing this Padawan that he wants to recruit. And so he kind of puts his team in danger to stay longer to try to recruit her. And what does the team think about that? This little bit, we'll see that tension come to life here. Yeah. So
yeah. I like it. You know, he's got his Night Brothers, and then he has some Mandos that are under Rook Kast. So
voiced by Vanessa Marshall.
Yes.
Yay.
Miss Vanessa. Yeah. So, you know, there's and then we have the, you know, underworld people that show up. So, you know, you have a lot of different actors that he's around. He's not just like in, you know, the Phantom Menace, he's just this character kind of brooding around, chasing the Jedi, trying to enact Siddi's vision. And he's doing it with, you know, fervor, trying to, you know, make his master proud and accomplish their goals. And then ultimately his goal would be to overthrow his Sith master. I mean, that it really is, if you think about it, the rule of two is kind of like perfect, because if you're too weak, the next person will succeed you, and then the Sith will always keep surviving.
Yeah.
And getting in a very solo way. Right. But he's not acting in this way that's just a Lone Ranger anymore. So it's a different dynamic than what
that's true. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he had his brother, Savage Opress, but it was just like the two of them. And so now, yeah, he's got a whole team.
Yeah, and then, you know, he ruled over Mandalore, but it wasn't, you know, it was really about him and Savage as far as, you know, what you see him interacting, and then he's just lording over people because that's what Sith are supposed to do ultimately. That's what he knows. That's what he has been taught and is trying to emulate one way or another.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's talk about Devon. And so Gideon, the voice of Devon, said something in the roundtable that she and Maul are reflections of each other. And I found that very, like, you could really see that in this series. That was very clear in a lot of the things he was saying, she was feeling. And so she was responding to him, even though she didn't want to.
Yeah, and Sam Witwer has a producing credit on this, like a consulting producer, I think, and they said that he came in and talked about this character. He has extensive knowledge of Star Wars, and I think he's thought the most about this character and what he's going through, and he made the point of bringing up the selflessness and selfishness.
Yes.
And that is where I see the reflection going on, because he wants her for his own selfish reasons. And I actually think as she's playing out, she really does want to be a selfless Jedi. Like that, you know, that's what she grew up. And now that's getting tested, right? Because things are getting tested for her. And then there's this also idea of hope versus having no hope. And, you know, I think it was Dave Filoni who said in one of these interviews that there is no hope for Maul, right?
Okay,
he's just kind of, you know, he's just going to keep pushing the rock up the hill. So that there is no hope in just mindlessly pushing the rock up the hill and never having any other goal than to get to the top of the hill. So yes, that I loved that was how she described their relationship, because I think that really encapsulates what we've seen so far.
Yeah. And then she also has her Master Daki there, telling her one thing, the angel on one shoulder, Maul is the devil on her other shoulder. But Master Daki, you know, he's a little older and she's so impressionable right now. And so their relationship is interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to say that they're really leaning heavily on like a generational kind of tilt on this, where her master is really like a boomer, and it's like, we're fine, we're okay, it'll be okay, I have the wisdom of many, many years, and you just trust me that it'll be okay. And, you know, she's more like a millennial who's like, why? Like, you know, because it's testing her, right? The Jedi, the thing that he told her, all this stuff, they don't exist anymore. So she's trying to cling to things that he taught her, but at the same time understand that somehow those ideals failed.
Well, the
right?
world around her is changing too.
Yeah.
It's changing so fast. And oftentimes younger person will realize, well, those old ways that worked for you then don't work now.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, and they have worked for the Jedi for a long time.
Until they didn't.
Until they didn't. And he's a really cool character.
Yes. Oh, I love his face. His design, like his alien. It's so cool.
You know, you get kind of that Yoda vibe where, you know, he's just kind of like walking around with a cane, but then all of a sudden he's, you know, handing out a can of whoop ass type of thing. And Dennis Haber does a great job with, you know, kind of his voice feels like wise and
grounded.
Knowing. Yeah. And, you know, he's trying to, you know, and she is pulling on him a little bit, and it's working a little bit, not maybe in the way that a young person needs it to work, right? You can only pull a different generation so far, right? Because they're entrenched in an idea, and he's entrenched in an idea, and she doesn't see how possibly his mindset is gonna change.
Right.
That's gonna change the situation they're in.
Definitely.
Yeah. And by the way, you can get her lightsaber in the May the 4th drop, which I think is really exciting. That was, to me, one of the first clues that they were going to do more with these characters than, you know.
Than just a season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's awesome. And yeah, so speaking of lightsabers, did you watch with closed captions?
Yes.
Some of these? Okay, yeah. So there's a surprise in the mid-season having to do with Maul's lightsaber in the captions. So everyone turn on your closed captions. That's all I can say. That was another question I had for the roundtable, but I feel like that would have been too spoilery.
Yeah. I almost always watch with the closed captions now.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know why, but I do.
Oh,
makes
no.
it easier.
It does. It makes it easier to, especially when you're reviewing stuff, the names, seeing them written, and just it's just so much better. And then you catch little things like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yay.
And then, I mean, obviously we have these two main characters, but there's a lot of other characters in the show that I think are really interesting, and there's room for everybody to have a favorite, I would say.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was sucked in by Chief Lawson and Two Boots much more than Maul in this series, especially with this noir vibe, right? You're always following the detective, and that's what he is. And I always want to call Two Boots Two Tubes from well, not Andor, from Rogue One, right? Two Tubes. Anyway, but yeah, and as Athena Portillo mentioned, in Star Wars you have to have hope. So you have these characters surrounding Maul, who we've already talked about has no hope. You have Master Daki, who is hope of a Master Jedi. You have Lawson and Two Boots, who are the hope for this whatever this planet is called, Janix. You have hope for Janix with these guys, and I love that the law is Lawson. It's very easy to remember. I'm like, oh, what was that guy? Oh, Lawson.
Lawson.
Yeah. Thank you. And Two Boots is a little like 3PO, and he's got a funny line, which I won't share here yet because it's a little bit of a spoiler. But yeah, I laughed out loud when we came to his line about his boots.
And if people don't realize, Wagner Moura, who plays the detective Lawson, he's no slouch here, right? We have a Golden Globe, a Cannes Film Festival Award, 5 Brazilian Academy Film Awards, in addition to nominations for an Academy Award, an Annie Award, and a Critics' Choice Award. So,
goodness,
we're getting like legit. And they just announced him for a new movie. He joins Kristen Stewart for a vampire thriller from A24. So this guy's star is rising. So
awesome.
We got, actually, I think that's a J.J. Abrams movie that he's starring in. So we're closing the circle on stuff.
Yeah, and all these like prestigious actors. I love it.
I mean, it feels like in the show you can't just have one cool droid, right?
Oh no.
Yeah. So you have to have 2 cool droids. So I'm going to just call it now that Spybot is going to be a fan favorite.
Spybot. And is he voiced by D. Bradley Baker? Actually, no,
he's David Collins.
Dave Collins. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for people who don't realize, so when there's like extra voices, say in Rogue One, stormtroopers on the beach, and they need to have a little bit of dialogue, it's usually Sam and Dave Collins kind of ad-libbing those lines. Yeah, so they are good friends, so this is kind of perfect. And definitely turn the captions on, because Spybot, he's sort of Chopper-esque in that you can't understand him all the time, but you can understand him some of the time.
And the captions
then he just has really funny words that he makes up that I wrote a few of them down because I was just laughing so hard. I'm like, skaboosh to douche douche or something like that. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, there's some really funny words that he makes up. But yeah, he's going to be a favorite.
Yeah. If there was ever a term for a fly on the wall, that's Spybot.
Yes. Well, it's a great way as a character to allow you to see things that are happening, right?
Yeah.
So he relays information around.
You're very right. Yeah.
All the way back to the way R2-D2 was the one that introduced Leia to Luke in A New Hope. But they definitely understand, like, that's what those characters are for. That's where they can be strong.
Mm-hmm.
But in a way, he's kind of a weird kind of pet best friend to Maul too. Right. And it's like, if Chopper were owned by an evil person, who would he be?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then going back to Two Boots, he provides a bit of comic relief. So while Spybot, has you showing different scenes that you may not have normally see, but you see it through his eyes, Two Boots is your comic relief, a lot like 3PO as well.
Yeah, and there's, important dynamic here in the story that the people on this planet don't really understand what the Empire means. Like, some people kind of have an idea, but they don't always understand it. And Two Boots is really the character that reflects this, like, lack of understanding of, they just think that the Empire is law and order.
Right. And whereas what I found cool was Brander Lawson, his ex-wife works for the Empire.
Yeah.
So he kind of has more of an idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know that they haven't expanded on it, but the suggestion is perhaps that, she decided to take up with the Empire and he didn't agree with it. And I would say there's enough character things that he does that feels right to me without them implicitly telling us that yet. But it's becomes an interesting dynamic. And then, now he's a single father with the wife off working for the Empire, and he has a teenage son, Rylee, who, also is a way into understanding more of just like the general world, and particularly to relate to Devon's character, right?
Yes.
Because,
they're about the same age, right?
Yeah, she has to have some peers, I think, because otherwise you get lost in that. You kind of lose some of the things with characters. When you have peers, it becomes more genuine. And they kept trying to do that at times with Ahsoka. They're like, oh, we need someone more her age, so we can show different things about her. And I think they knew they needed that right in the story. Like, get a character in there that she can relate to in some ways, and then can't relate to in others, because, like, he thinks like, oh, I'm this great athlete, and then she's a Jedi.
Flipping around. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, their dynamic is really neat. Yeah. So the series, so it comes out April 6th, 2 episodes on that day, and 2 episodes every week. Yeah.
You
Oh,
can
that's
watch it
today. Yeah. Watch it now. Watch it now, everybody. And let us know what you think. And I'm so glad we were able to talk this over, Trisha. I'm excited to watch again.
I am excited to watch again and to have some conversations. As always, the people who are working on this are like the top tier, and they're the people that Dave Filoni's taught. So this is, they know kind of what he wants from Star Wars, and they know their marching orders. I feel really confident with Athena in charge of animation that they're just going to get stronger and stronger. And hopefully we're going to see a lot of good, I think people, I'm ready for 9 and 10. I can't believe we have to wait with everybody.
Same. Yeah. What's going to happen? Oh,
yeah. So let's plug some things.
Okay.
On Fangirl Blog, you can check out our Hyperspace Theories, which is our storytelling podcast I have with BJ Priester, our editor over there. And we do have a discussion on a new Lucasfilm era, and we will have some Maul discussions, I'm sure. And I'm going to have a Project Hail Mary episode 2 coming up. So I need to watch it again, but yes.
Have fun. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, Skywalking Through Neverland right now is lining up. So liningup.net has been the group since The Phantom Menace that has lined up in front of the TCL Chinese Theater. And it's been 7 years since there's been a Star Wars film in the theater, and a lot of the admins have moved on to other things. And so Richard and I stepped up and have become the charity liaisons to liningup.net. So we're working with Starlight Children's Foundation and are part of the liningup.net admin team. And so we're very excited that, first of all, on April 12th, we're having this big Mandalorian and Grogu kickoff charity bash at Scum and Villainy Cantina in Hollywood. So this is a Sunday, and it's going to be during the day, like 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And we're going to have all kinds of, there's going to be silent auctions. There's going to be raffle tickets. There's going to be prizes. There's going to be trivia because Richard and I are there. And there's going to be announcements for the line. It's going to be a really fun time. And any families are invited as well. Children are able to come at least until 8 p.m. at that cantina. So please come out. That's April 12th. And then if you want to join the line with us at TCL Chinese Theater, or even just donate to Starlight Children's Foundation, you can do that even now, but the line actually starts May 19th through 21st. So it's a quick line. It's like a 48-hour line, and you don't need to line up for all that time. You basically just need to sign up and say that you want tickets so that we reserve enough tickets for people. And then what happens is you get to see that first showing at 3 p.m. on the 21st. I believe it's around 3 at the TCL Chinese Theater IMAX, which is the best theater ever to see a Star Wars movie, with about 900 of your closest Star Wars friends. So
people who are really excited for this.
Yes. So come on down. You can get more information at liningup.net or just our socials at Skywalking Pod, because we're sharing.
I know it seems like the next Star Wars movie was so far away, and now it's not. I'm excited.
It's coming. It's so exciting. Yeah. Ugh.
If you didn't listen to our trailer reaction, let's see, that was our last episode. Go back and check it out. So now we keep getting a little bit more footage, and like every week, we get
these little spots,
little bit more. Yeah,
little. Yeah, there was a new outfit for her character. Oh, I forget her name. Sigourney Weaver's character. I think someone saw a new outfit. It's like, ooh, what's that? Very excited.
That's good, because I was thinking we were just going to see her in her little orange jumpsuit.
Yeah.
But all right.
Exciting.
Well, we hope you guys check out Maul Shadow Lord, or have already and enjoyed our conversation, and we'll come back to listen to more conversations about it.
Yeah. So in the meantime, you can always visit us over at fangirlsgoingrogue.com, and we are on Blue Sky. We are at FG Going Rogue on all the socials. Trisha is at Fangirl Cantina, and I am at Jedi Tink.
Send us an email, contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com.
And then you can also find us on Facebook. Just search Fangirls Going Rogue. You can like the page or request to join the group.
And please go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a positive 5-star review. We need your reviews so more people can find us.
So until next time. Yub.
Yub. Yub.
This site is not affiliated in any way with Lucasfilm Limited LLC, the Walt Disney Company, or any of their affiliates or subsidiaries.
Yep, yep.